Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Monday, July 7th, 2025, and today's topic I'm going to call Managing Art Projects. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use a timer to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll start a 10-minute timer, but maybe this video will be kind of long, I'm not sure. But yeah, let's get started. So to begin with, I'm going to use this new page to write down some notes. So the first thing is some playlists that I have. So I have these playlists if you want to check them out. And this video will go into artist life. Every once in a while, I like to do a video like this where it's really about project management or self-improvement, specifically for art and drawing and painting and stuff like that. I just call it all of it art because I'm working on like a book series. And these names may or may not change, but these were just what seemed to make sense to me. So I have the basics. I have figure drawing. There are basics of figure drawing, but if it's not the figure, I'll put it into like the basics. I have environments, which I've recently been working on. Maybe there's more, and then comics. I just wanted to list some, and I didn't even like really look at it, but just to kind of get started. But it's always nice to kind of look back and review some things and have hindsight. So for example, something that I've done is, and something that I do every day are the daily sketching routine. So this is part of like the daily sketch. Ultimately, all these videos, they keep going back to like this. And I wouldn't call like a daily sketching like a project. It's more like a routine, which is why I call it a routine. And that's kind of its own thing. And then a habit isn't really the daily sketching routine, because I still have to focus on doing it, make it like a priority. A habit is like the way you hold the pen. Make a note of that. So a habit is, for example, holding the pen. Just to actually do some sketching. So I'm going to have a loose grip, and then I'm going to like draw from imagination. So that's part of like the AOS triad. This is kind of a brainstorm session. So we have imagination. Holding the pencil loosely is like a habit that you can develop, but like sketching every day may not be a habit. Like it's still not a habit for me. There's things about it that's become more of a habit, and so I've been doing the daily sketches for a while, but I haven't made YouTube videos consistently until like a year ago. The imagination part, it's stuff like sketching from imagination. So I like to, there's certain things I like to play, like doodling is one. And I have plenty of videos about these kinds of things. So doodling is like this. And like the way you do that is like the habit, basically. Like you might have a habit of doodling. So that's imagination. And then there's study, or what did I call it? Yeah, I call it study. To study something, I'm going to just open up like my Pinterest feed to see what random things. So I've been doing that for the past few days. So in the study, you might have like a picture that looks interesting, like randomly, like on Pinterest or something, and you don't have to zoom into the details unless you want to. But just for example, this picture looks interesting because of like the perspective. So let's say I go like this and kind of do this. So it's like a mixture of doodling, but also I saw something like that looked interesting, so kind of like this. So that's kind of can be kind of a fun thing to do. So you can play around with shapes and stuff. So kind of like this. So that's an idea. Because ultimately, like I was saying, it's about the daily sketching. Like that's what the channel I was gonna originally call it, like sketching. You can see something like a picture and just kind of play around with it, like doodle something. And that's probably the best sort of and like fun kind of teacher. It's just sketching and doodling. The other thing is like style. So I've talked about style, and if you use like a pen to sketch with, like that's a style, like pen and ink. So it's gonna have like a look to it. And crosshatch is a style. So you can start to just make up a picture. Now I wouldn't call this a project. I would call like my YouTube channel a project, because there needs to be like a beginning and an end to like a project. So it is possible. But like sketching is like it's an activity or like a routine, because you're not going to stop. Like the idea is that it's like a habit, or yeah, it can become a habit. There are certain things that become a habit, even if sketching itself isn't always a habit. So for example, the way the shapes and stuff and the way you sketch or doodle can become a habit, and then that in turn, it's kind of like handwriting, then it turns into like part of the style. And if you use like a pen or like a particular kind of tool, then that also is part of the style, and that just comes from practicing. So going back to the idea of like managing art projects, I wanted to do a video about that, because there's sketches and drawings in these different etc. playlists that are sometimes just like this. They're just sketches because of the daily sketching, but then also some have kind of turned into like illustrations and stuff. They can become more like complete pieces. So just for an example, this is what I've been working on recently. Even though this is sketchy right here, I still consider that like a finished project if the idea was to do like a study, like done in a sketchy like style. Like to me, and then like the whole page itself is kind of like a project, but like even within the page, a study could be like a project. Like I have this one from a few days ago. So you'll see that part of it is like the composition. So if you give it a border, it looks more like, and also like just the theme or like the topic, it looks like an illustration, and it has like a character like kind of doing something. So one thing I'll do is I'll start to just sketch some stuff from imagination or doodle. So I'm going to sketch some hands, and I'm going to use like simple shapes. But just to kind of wrap up the video, when I was doing freelance, I had like a different purpose. So it was, yeah, to like do freelance stuff. I'm kind of getting away from that and kind of just doing my own thing. And so I've had to like really look into, well, one, like the foundation for me is just sketching daily. Like I was always doing that anyway. I knew that was pretty important. So I'm sketching. I've been meaning to play around with this, like sketching hands and stuff. You can do stuff out of imagination. Like hands are interesting. They have different forms and shapes, so they kind of lend themselves to this kind of thing. I want to be able to just sketch something. So let's say that I do this. And then be able to, like, if I need to look up reference, then I will. Or I could just like look at something. So I'll just look at my own hand. You could also, yeah, like use your own hand as reference. So kind of like this. It's not a bad thing to play around with. So this was from imagination, but then observational, where you're just looking, but then do it in a way where, like, if you were drawing it from imagination, like how it could be helpful. And yeah, of course, I have this in like the figure drawing like playlist. So I'm just drawing like my own hand here. So kind of combining the like two different methodologies, drawing from imagination and also observing. And then like mixing and matching, sort of like fixing some things. Go into more detail in future videos. I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine. And if you do enjoy these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.